Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan here each week for 3 hours talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, a big part of our state's history, a big part of our state's heritage, for many of us, a big part of our individual family history and tradition and heritage. That's the way it was for me. But I hear every week from people who are not hunters or anglers or shooters or trappers who say they listen to the show, they enjoy the show, they appreciate the content. And that means a lot. I do appreciate that. As I'm in the studio right now, we're doing some time shifting again, probably one last time for the year. Time shifting is something we do here when I'm going to be gone for a week, so we double up on shows. As you are hearing this show, I will be just returning from a bow hunt in Ohio with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. I used to go down there and hunt with Bill when I had the TV show every year, sometimes multiple times a year. Hadn't hunted with him for 10 years or so. And he joined me on a Wednesday Night Live when we got throwing the idea around, said, hey, why don't we put together a Mike Avery Outdoors or an Outdoor Magazine outing? A bunch of people from Michigan says, yeah, I'd love to go. So we put it together, went down there last year, had a great time. Last year we were there a week earlier, and it was really hot. I mean, it was like 85 degrees. There wasn't a lot of deer movement. I think 2 or 3 of our hunters got animals. So we're going back this year. I'm not a huge deer hunter these days, not nearly as hardcore or even excited about it as I used to be. However, I do welcome the opportunity to get together with a bunch of friends, go see some new territory, some new country down there in Ohio, and get to see my friends Bill and Joan and Neil Piles. So that part I am absolutely looking forward to. A deer is just the bonus. I've had 3 out-of-state, I've had 3 big hunts this year. I had the first one was my bear hunt in Ontario. Didn't get a bear. Second one was my bear hunt in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Didn't get a bear. So my last big hunt for the year will be in Ohio, bow hunting with Bill Piles for whitetails. You'd think the odds would be with me by now, right? I don't know. We'll see. I am past the point in my life where I judge the success of my hunts by shooting something. Now, this is a welcome change from when I had a TV show. When you have a TV show, there is a constant pressure to shoot something, to harvest something, at least have a close encounter. Even if it's a miss, you can still make a show out of it. But you've got to see something. And that was one part of the TV show that always dragged on me. It dragged me down. I didn't like that part. But people aren't going to tune into a show where you don't at least see big bucks or maybe bears or whatever. Now I don't have that pressure, and it is glorious. And the thing about these days is I don't have to carry all that gear with me. You know, it used to be there was a camera guy with me, oftentimes my son James. So there was 2 of us in the stand. He was holding a camera on his shoulder, so you got double the scent, you got double the noise. You know, no, do you have him on camera? Do you have him on camera? No, wait. I hated that. That's not, in my mind at least, where I am in my point in my life, that's not what hunting should be. So these days I don't have to worry about it. I do have a little Tacticam on my crossbow, and I've got a phone in my pocket. And I can do everything with that phone and Tacticam that I need to do because I'm not doing a TV show. I do some video for my online stuff, but it doesn't have to be a full half hour. And about the only thing I can't do with a phone is it doesn't have a long enough lens so you can't zoom in and get a close-up on an animal that's a ways off. But the tools that we have today are just phenomenal. It is so far removed from what it used to be. And it is so much more enjoyable for me than what it used to be. If, though, you are at this point in your life where you want to document these things, it's easier than ever. The tools are better. The tools are higher quality. They're much less expensive. The first camera I ever used professionally was an Ikegami HL79A. And the camera was $80,000. The first camera I ever bought when I went out on my own was $50,000. And the quality of that video was not nearly as good as the quality of the iPhone I have in my pocket right now. It's amazing. So if you want to document these things, if you want to do a YouTube channel, if you want to do a podcast, the tools, the technology, the gear are out there. They're more accessible. They're more reasonably priced than ever. All you have to do is tell a story. I always say that to people. I say, what's the key to being successful in the outdoor broadcasting industry? Successful is a relative term, right? I guess I have had some success just because I've been around so darn long, but I've never reached the degree of success that the big names in the outdoor industry did, the guys on the Outdoor Channel, even though I was on the Outdoor Channel for a while. Just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't my path. It wasn't the path that God had in store for me and mind for me. And fortunately, I almost said smart enough to eventually figure it out. No, it wasn't smart. That was not what helped me figure it out. But you got to tell a story. You don't need expensive gear. You don't need your own TV show. You can do it. It used to be the way to tell these stories was you would write an article. And you'd get it published in the local newspaper. Or you'd get it in a magazine like Woods and Water News or something. And that's still a great way to do it. There are still people who do that very well, very successfully, who have made a career at it. But if you're not looking to make a career, you're just looking to reach an audience, tell a story. And how do you tell a story? There are some elements involved. You want and options, entertain, educate. Those are the two big ones in my mind. Entertain and or educate. Don't try to be fancy. Just show people what you're experiencing. Tell them what was in your mind as these things happened in front of you. It can be a lot of fun, especially if you don't have the pressure of making it your profession, especially if you don't have the pressure of getting these bucks on camera. Turkey hunting was always fun because you know where they're coming into. You can get them on camera. Bear hunting, always fun. You know I love that because I bear hunt over bait. You know they're coming into the bait. You know where they're going to be. But whitetails, holy cow. Whitetails are a different critter. Literally, altogether. You think you know where they're coming into, but they like to surprise you. So what else is going on? My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I keep threatening to update that website. We did a couple of years ago. It could stand to be tweaked, but it's just one of those things where, okay, we'll get to it. I still like the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. From there, it's easy to get to my social media outlets. We also post a podcast up there, of course, the podcast version of the radio show. That website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Please don't hesitate to use that to reach out, to contact me with questions, comments, criticisms, suggestions, questions for the Ask Avery segment. Also, if you want me to share pictures of your hunting or fishing adventures, that's a great way to do it. I used to say, hey, post them on the Facebook page and I'll share them. Well, that's not so easy anymore. The best way to do it these days, send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Attach your pictures, maybe a little video. Tell me a brief description of what's going on, because if you just say, hey, here's my deer, I'll post it, but we don't know anything about it. Hey, here's my first 8-point that I shot in northern Michigan with my bow. Perfect. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't forget, too, about Wednesday Night Live. That is something I do on my social media streams. Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. We do it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Still haven't figured out how to put them on. Not Instagram, LinkedIn. Still haven't figured out how to put them on Instagram yet. Coming up on this week's show after the break, Skeeter Beckman of Brenton USA, the AR-15 style hunting rifles out of Lansing. Then Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy. In hour number 2, we're talking fall muskie fishing with Don Barnard. Nick Green of MUCC checks in. This week's Ask Avery question, talking about the legality of piebald and albino critters as a legal hunting target. And in our third hour, we're talking with Randy Budde about predator hunting, and we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I have no idea what he's got for a recipe in store for us this week, but I can tell you it will be a good one. My name is Mike Avery. The show is Outdoor Magazine. Going to be here for the next 3 hours. Glad to have you along with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. Think about that. More than 3/4 of a century, the Boning Archery Company has been coming up with new products, new manufacturing processes for target archers, bow hunters. I think it's a very impressive story. Check them out online at boning.com, BOHNING.com, boning.com. In fact, I would bet, as you are in the woods this fall bow hunting, you have some kind of a boning product on your rig. If not, I think you should check them out, boning.com, BOHNING.com. I have made no secret of the fact that I really, really enjoy. In fact, I seek out Michigan-based, family-owned, outdoor-related companies to work with. That's my sweet spot. I love that. I love the fact that you can sit down with the people who make the decisions, have a cup of coffee, shake their hand, and say, okay, yeah, let's work together. I don't like the big corporate conglomerates. No, I like Michigan-based family-owned companies. That's why when the opportunity came up to work with Brenton USA hunting rifles, and I did a little research, I said, yes, I think this could be the perfect fit. Well, it is. And I'm now hunting with a Brenton 350 Legend that I absolutely love. Skeeter Beckman is with Brenton, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Skeeter, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
I am doing just great. And I was thinking, as people hear this show, we're starting to get pretty close to the Michigan firearm deer season. I would think that for a lot of people, an AR style, a Brenton, would be a great deer hunting gun for Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely hunting with one this season, and have in the past. They're good rifles in good calibers that work across Michigan.
Well, my grandson Carter got to use my Brenton 350 Legend in the youth hunt, and it did a great job there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use my Brenton on a Michigan bear hunt, but you can bet I'm going to do my best on a Michigan whitetail here. What's the appeal, Skeeter, of the AR style? Because as we both know, AR has gotten a lot of negative exposure, negative attention from people who just don't know any better. But when you look at it, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it does make a lot of sense, and there, that AR negativity really comes from that paramilitary. That this is a military style rifle and does not need to be used by hunters. Well, we've taken all those really great features out of that paramilitary, the black rifle, I guess we call it, and we've put that into a hunting rifle for Michigan. It is the firearm to have in your hands if you're going to go out for whitetails or coyotes this year. The coyote community really picked it up quickly, and everybody's been hunting with an AR-style rifle. We've taken all those good features, wrapped them into one package, and this is built for hunters by hunters.
And made right here in Michigan, in Lansing, lifetime guarantee, and a lot of different calibers.
Absolutely. We've got them ranging from the 204 Ruger all the way to the 450 Bushmaster. It's quite of an array of calibers.
I got to believe this time of year that 450 Bushmaster and the 350 Legend have got to be two of your most popular calibers going out the door.
Oh, absolutely. And it's guys that are close to the line and guys that are hunting south of the line and then heading to Ohio, where those straight wall cartridges can be used. They sell like hotcakes.
So why not just take, well, I'm going to rephrase this. I have a couple of AR styles that are not what I would consider AR hunting rifles. They are more of self-defense rifles. And they're great guns, but I wouldn't call them highly accurate guns. And that's where you guys at Brenton have kind of set yourself apart, right?
Absolutely. I mean, our rifles are built sub-MOA. They're not put together to be built in the masses. These things are put together one at a time. All the parts are built to our spec. We're sending them out the door. They've been fired 3 times. We go a little bit above and beyond to make it look really good, feel really good, and perform at a sub-MOA level.
And sub-MOA means sub-minute of angle, which is just, it's a way of defining the accuracy, right?
Absolutely. These things are tack drivers.
I take this above and beyond. You followed the laid out method of breaking in a rifle, a barrel, and yours is truly a tack driver.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually hunting with a 6.5 Grendel this year for whitetails, and I'm having with a 22-inch barrel with the fixed stock, I'm having absolutely no problems being zeroed at 100 yards and ringing a 4-inch steel plate at 250 yards.
Wow. Can you find ammo for that 6.5?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things about my 350 Legend. I can find ammo for that anywhere.
Yeah, it's readily available, and some run better than others, but there's a lot of great manufacturers out there. I'm actually running a Federal in my 350, and I was already able to take a doe with it this year, and it was fantastic during our early antlerless season.
Well, and there's some exciting news coming out of Brenton too. You guys are you're branching off into another part of the business. Tell me more about that.
We have looked at everything's been about the hunter, right? Our rifle, it was built for the hunter, the look, performance, feel, and we needed to take that a step beyond. One of the designs in our rifle was the charging handle is actually built and designed to be run with suppression. So we are coming out with a series of suppressors. There'll be 2 different cans that are available, one for the 350, 450, so a multi-caliber can, and then our 30 cal can, which is everything else that our rifle comes in can run through that can.
Wow. So with 2 suppressors, you can cover the whole line?
Absolutely. It's a little bit different than the industry standard, but we've made them both multi-cal cans. For 450 and the 350, we have one, and everything else, we have another. They're unique design. They're built with the hunters in mind. They are the lightest and smallest in their class. We know that guys are going to have to tote these things into the woods, and having a suppressor that's 12 inches long, that's 2 inches in diameter, and weighs multiple pounds is not what these guys need. They need something that's going to provide hearing conservation, and it's going to be able to add to their rifle, not take away from. You don't want a wheelbarrow to help you get the thing out there in the woods with you.
I think this is a great idea. A couple of weeks ago on the show, we had Dr. Mike Stewart, who was an audiologist and an avid hunter, and he talked about this whole concept of running a suppressor or silencer on your rifle. There's no downside to it, well, except for the fact that up until now they've been a little bit hard to get. But the process is getting a little easier, isn't it, Skeeter?
The ATF has made a lot of changes. So, with the e-filing system, it's a little bit easier to get things through. We still have to wait for the ATF. The only reason we haven't launched our suppressors right now is our paperwork is sitting on the director of the ATF's desk, and we're waiting for that rubber stamp that we hope comes pretty soon. But everything's been done, all of the investigations and inquiries about design and things like that. So we're ready to go. And ATF is helping out the consumer by putting in that e-filing system. Makes it a little bit easier. I think right now they're saying that they're at 120 days for a completed stamp. Now, I know that some people don't understand that process, and we say suppressors, and a lot of people say silencers,
right.
And silencers are illegal. But we let people know that with the correct tax stamp, which is a $200 tax stamp that can be applied for, and in your suppressor being registered with its own unique serial number, you put all that information in the e-filing system, and you're using it for legal purposes, and it's absolutely something that you can have, and you should exercise that right and have one.
Well, I saw a post. I mean, there are pictures of these things. They do exist. Now you're just waiting for to jump through the hoops to put them in hunters' hands.
Oh, absolutely. I think the first few that get through those prototypes, those are registered and for the manufacturer. Right now, we are just waiting for that rubber stamp so we can put those finalized serial numbers on them, so we can track every one that comes off of the line. But these things are cool, Mike. I can't wait to show you one. And put one in your hand so you can look at it. But they are just like our rifles, put together for the look, the feel, the performance. This is something that the hunter's going to want on the front of their Brent rifle. I
think a suppressor is a wonderful idea. I mean, for one thing, it protects our hearing, although it might be a little too late for me over all these years. But also when you're sitting out there in the woods, and part of this experience of hunting is just it's so peaceful. You're part of Mother Nature. It's quiet. And if you can take a shot and not disturb that silence, that experience, it's a win-win. Now, how does somebody, as they say, okay, look, I want a Brenton suppressor, can they contact you guys now and say, okay, put my name in the list? And I mean, how does this work?
Yeah, they can contact us now and let us know that they are interested. We can go through the information with them and give them the timeline that we're on right now. We will absolutely be sending these to the local dealers who have the license and can be able to sell them. So we will be able to get them in touch with people that they can buy them from, and we're hoping to be able to get them to our dealers quickly.
Skeeter, put my name on the list. Let's start the paperwork. Let's get this thing going.
Fantastic.
Also, folks can buy these guns at Jay's Sporting Goods. I would encourage people to go to Jay's Sporting Goods in Clare. Stop by and check them out. If you can't do that, you can go to the website, BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. Use the promo code Avery and get $100 off. So it's a good deal, Skeeter. I appreciate the fact that you guys are right here in Michigan, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You as well. Skeeter Beckman of Brenton USA Rifles, the website, BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com, with big news about suppressors being made by Brenton. They're just waiting so we can get our hands on them, and I'm waiting for one too. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy. What do you do with these trophies that you're catching and harvesting this time of year? Well, Scott will have details about his suggestions coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Michigan-based VersaSkins owner Paul Perone has come up with a great concept. Why spend a lot of money on different sets of hunting clothes in different camo patterns when you can buy just one set and then snap on and zip on the outer shell and change the camo pattern? Just change your skin for the season you're in. Blaze orange, snow camo, waterfowl hunting, upland hunting, you name it. VersaSkins has you covered. The website, versaskins.com, versaskins.com. Check them out. You'll see what I'm talking about. And they have sizes for big hunters as well. I think at that 4, 5, 6X even. So if you're looking for those kinds of those sizes, VersaSkins has you covered literally. Versaskins.com. Want to turn our attention now to Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy. Scott is on the road. He's headed out west, and he's given us some time this morning. Scott, appreciate that. Where are you headed, by the way?
Hey, Mike, good morning. We are headed to northwestern Colorado for the opener of the elk season out there.
A Colorado elk hunt?
Yeah, you know, it's for about 10 years. It's always been one of these days I'm going to do that. You know, one of these days. Well, I'm getting to the age and to the part of my life where one of these days has got to be soon. So I applied in last year in the spring there, and I drew a first season rifle elk tag. So one of these days is now. So here we are.
A first season rifle tag in Colorado. That's a pretty big deal, I got to believe, Scott.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sitting in some little podunk town in Nebraska right now. We're on our way out. Opener is Saturday, so we got to get up the mountain and put up camp in a totally do-it-yourself situation. So I've done it before for deer, never for elk. So pretty excited.
Well, I'm excited for you too. And listen, I want to talk to you about taxidermy, but I got to hear more about this hunt here. How do you do a do-it-yourself hunt in a different state without a guide? I mean, where do you even start?
It's a production. First of all, I'm going with a friend of mine who's done it for about 12, 13 years. So he's very familiar with the area. We have he owns a tent, 16 by 24 wall tent, the wood stove. You know, we bring cots, we bring a UTV to get up the mountain, about 3 miles, and then we got to hike all that stuff in another mile on foot. It's a day production just to get camp set up. And like I said, we've done it for deer and seen lots of elk in this area, and my friend has harvested many elk in this area, but I've never had an elk tag for this area. So things are looking promising. The weather's supposed to be beautiful, but it's a lot of work. I've been hoofing it, running and walking about 4 miles every day for the last 6 months, getting in shape. And you're never going to get into what we call elk shape. In Michigan, you just cannot do it. But you can do little things to help make it a little less miserable. You know, so it's quite a production.
Well, yeah, you talk about elk shape, and I think you're talking about the altitude, right? I mean, here in Michigan, you just can't train, you just can't adjust for the altitude until you're there.
No, absolutely not. And we get there a couple of days early to kind of acclimate to the elevation. We're going to be right about between 8,500 and 9,000 feet. But no, you can't get yourself prepared for the thin air. But you can get your muscles in shape. You can, I've dropped about 15 pounds, which helps when you're hiking 3 miles. And then the steepness of the mountains. I mean, we're in the Rocky Mountains. This isn't a flat, we're not hunting in the full grasslands. This is a pretty extreme physical hunt. So, people have miserable times if they don't take it seriously, and you can get hurt out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing for hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Man.
So you just do the best you can.
You signed up for the full experience, didn't you?
Yeah, like I said, we've had the Western experience before with deer, and so I'm familiar with what it takes, but deer are a little easier to get than elk. Not saying one couldn't walk out at 20 yards and you shoot it. You just animals are animals. You never know. But it's definitely going to be a physical experience. So I kind of know what I'm getting into. I have an experienced person with help me prepare and who has to do it with me.
Yeah. The rut's over, right? I mean, this won't be a rut hunt. Will they still be bugling?
It's all weather related. They may still be bugling, but typically we'll see bulls in small bachelor groups, or there'll be a couple in with a harem of cows. Typically, the rut by now is winding down. Not to say they're not still interested. I mean, they're males, of course they're interested. But typically it's winding down at this point. But we'll hear bugles. Yeah, there'll be bugling in the evenings, absolutely.
Very cool. We're talking with Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy. His website, linwoodtaxidermy.com. That's linwoodtaxidermy.com. But he's on his way for a Colorado Rocky Mountain elk hunt, so you've got to talk about that, right? All right, we got that out of our system. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Scott's hanging tight. I hope his cell signal holds up. But when we come back after the break, we'll talk about taxidermy, this whole process of how to preserve your memories of your great fall fishing, of your Michigan hunting adventures, or maybe you're going someplace else. Maybe you're going out west to Colorado on an elk hunt like Scott is. Well, either way, you're going to come back with some meat, and you're going to come back with some memories. And how do you help preserve those memories? More on that after the break with Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. Speaking of the UP, Rapid River Knives. I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as you know I always do. What a great company, great products, handmade by craftsmen in the UP. They make folding knives like I carry all the time. They make hunting knives. They make fillet knives. They make axes. They make hatchets, kitchen knives. Check them out online. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Or better yet, go to the showroom on US 2 just outside Rapid River, and you can see what I mean. You can get your knife engraved while you're there. Tell them the big guy sent you. Tell them Avery sent you. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. All right, we're talking now with Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy, linwoodtaxidermy.com. But Scott is on the road. He's headed for Colorado for a Colorado elk hunt. Scott, a couple logistical questions here. Number one, when you get your animal, how do you get all that meat back home? An elk is a big critter.
Yes, it is. By foot. We'll be at 7,000, 8,000 feet. And, we'll do all the work in the field, skinning, caping, deboning. And like I said, I have help. I've got 2 guys with me. And we'll literally pack that out and hang it in game bags to cool in the shade. And then coolers on the way back. And luckily this time of year, we've got cool weather, so coolers work well.
Sure. All right. So whether we're on a western elk hunting adventure or deer hunting right back here in Michigan, if we want to preserve these memories, I love the idea of getting a shoulder mount or even a European mount or something. But what do we keep in mind, Scott? How do we in the field do the best job so we can help you as a taxidermist help us to get a good product?
Yeah. Well, what I say is treat it like you're going to eat it. Treat it with delicacy. You've got to get your beautiful artwork on the wall, your taxidermy mount. If you want looking pretty, starts with care in the field. And that means not hanging it by the neck by a rope, not dragging it out on the ground behind the wheeler. You got to get these things in a sled, I'm speaking like deer, in a sled or on a four-wheeler or a side-by-side UTV of some kind, carry them out and hang them upside down. So you do very little damage to the capes and the hide and the hair. And get them taken care of as soon as possible. Get them to a taxidermist, get them to a meat processor who can skin and cape them and get them cold. I always say keep everything cold and dry. That's the most important thing. Everybody wants to pack their things with ice. That water melts, and water creates bacteria when it hits meat. So you have water, blood, and heat, which is 3 detrimental things to a skin. You may have to take a night off of hunting to take care of your trophy animal. Everybody, I'll take care of it in the morning, You're best to take care of it immediately. Get your animal skinned and in a freezer or in a cooler or to a taxidermist or meat processor as fast as you possibly can, whether it's warm or cold. Even in the cold, your animal is dead. Decomposition starts immediately, even if it's cold. It will preserve a little bit longer when you keep it cool, but you're best off to get it to a processor as soon as possible.
What about fish? Fall is a great time for trophy fish. You're going to see a lot of big fish coming into the shop. How do we take care of those?
Yep, fish is a whole different animal with scales. They are a little more durable than a furred animal, but try to keep them in a cooler on ice until you can get home. Try to like salmon and stuff like that. I like to knock them overhead. Make sure they're dead when you put them in the cooler, so they're not flipping and flopping and busting fins and doing more damage than need be, losing scales and things like that. And then when you get them home, if you can't get them to a taxidermist right away, it's always best to roll them up in a wet towel, kind of like a burrito, lay them flat in the freezer, put them in a garbage bag, lay them flat in the freezer, and get them things frozen solid. That wet towel will do 2 things. It prevents freezer burn on the fish, and it keeps it from any further damage of other things in the freezer falling on the fish or damaging it in transport, something to that effect.
What about a reproduction? Is that a good idea these days? You like to stay away from them? Do you like them?
I love them. Reproduction, as far as I'm concerned, are by far the way to go. Not only do you get to either release or eat the fish, today's reproductions, the company I use for reproductions, the number 1 in the country. They're flawless. There's no seams. There's no scale loss. There's no fin damage to fix. They are your fish. We take measurements off of your fish. They are your fish. And people say, well, I want my fish on the wall. Well, we can go in a lot more in person. Come see me. We can talk about that. But I am a huge fan of reproductions.
Sounds good, Scott. Listen, I got to.
Beautiful.
All right, we got to let you go. Good luck on your Western elk hunt. I will look forward to seeing the pictures of your trophy. Speaking of trophies, the taxidermy site is at linwoodtaxidermy.com for Scott Keitzman, linwoodtaxidermy.com. Scott, good luck on your trip. We'll look forward to talking soon. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, another guy who's on a Western trip. We'll talk about that and fall muskie fishing right back here in Michigan on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And again, I say radio because I'm just trying to set this program apart from the many, many podcasts that are out there. I have nothing against podcasting. I love podcasting. I think podcasting is wonderful. But there aren't many syndicated, statewide radio shows, even across the country. Outdoor radio shows, I should say, across the country. So I like to make the distinction that this is just something a little bit different. And I do believe the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local AM or FM radio station, because there you get your local news and weather and sports. And the broadcast stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is made available. Yes, of course, there is a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. On the Facebook page, it's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, the whole gamut. Stitcher, Player FM, Odyssey. It's even on YouTube. I know. It's a radio show, but I put a version of it on YouTube, and people listen to it every week. I do like podcasts, though. In fact, each month I produce podcasts for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Primal Tree Stands, and when we're done in the studio today, Pat and I will record this month's Polar Craft podcast, so keep an eye/ear out for that as well. Regardless, though, of how you are listening to me, when you are listening to me, I do certainly appreciate you being along with us. You know, we're doing some time shifting in the studio this week, doubling up on shows. As you're listening to this, I'm just coming back from an Ohio bow hunt with my buddy Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. We just talked to Scott Keitzman of Linwood Taxidermy, who's on his way to Colorado. Now my buddy Don Barnard, coincidentally, is out west as well. I didn't set the show up this way. It just kind of worked out. You know, just because, and listen, I'm a Michigan fanboy. You know that. I've grown up here. I made my career here. I love this state, and I love the outdoor recreational opportunities we have here. But it's okay once in a while, if you can, to jump out to another state and see what they have to offer. We're not cheating on our Michigan, our beloved Michigan, if we go somewhere else. And that's what Don Barnard is doing right now. Don, welcome back to the show. How's your cell? Can you hear me all right?
Can you hear you fine, Mike?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing real good. It's a windy day in North Dakota, but we're doing pretty good.
Isn't every day a windy day in North Dakota?
We had a couple of calm days, and then yesterday the wind started, and it's increasing today. So it makes hunting challenging, but we're adapting.
What are you doing out there, Don? What are you hunting for?
Pretty much pheasants, plus sharp-tailed grouse, a few Hungarian partridge. Right now, that's what we're working on out of the birds. Hopefully I can get out later on this week and do some coyote hunting, but we're here for the pheasants. So
And pheasant hunting out west in the Dakotas is not like we have here in Michigan these days at all, is it?
No, it's a whole another ball game, and we've got some birds, plus we've watched a lot of birds fly into the sunflowers, which makes hunting very difficult. So we were actually hoping for some of the crops to be down, but nevertheless, we're making do, and we're finding some birds, and we're having fun. So.
And it mentioned coyote hunting, too, predator hunting out there. That's also different out there. I mean, predator hunting here in Michigan is pretty good, but out there's a ton of coyotes, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. There's, from what you can sit at the ranch we hunt out of, and you can hear coyotes in an evening from 4 different points of the compass. So a lot more coyotes. And plus, because it's open country, you can see the coyotes a lot further away. Michigan, I coyote hunt in Michigan, and it's a different ball game all because of the cover and the trees and all that. It's actually a little bit more challenging in Michigan, but coyotes are coyotes, and they're smart, and doesn't matter whether I'm in Michigan or North Dakota, they always take me to school. So
coyotes are coyotes. What about pheasants? Are pheasants regardless of where you hunt them, or are your North Dakota birds different than what we have back here at home?
No, I think they're all similar. The wind makes them spookier, and so sometimes they run, and sometimes they flush a little wild, especially on windy days. But I found that in Michigan as well as in North Dakota. So the added bonus is the sharp-tailed grouse they have out here. We did pretty good. We got 7 sharp-tails yesterday, so that's a little mix as opposed to just pheasant hunting by itself. So, but yeah, the pheasants are similar, but the cover is different, but the birds are they're still beautiful pheasants.
Great time of year, isn't it, Don? I mean, you're doing some hunting out there. You're going to come back home to Michigan to do some hunting, and I got to believe it's not going to be too long before you start to chase your beloved Michigan Muskies.
Well, right. It's the best time of year to fish muskies. As soon as the water temperature gets below 55 degrees and the lakes have turned over, if you can dress accordingly, you can have a really good time.
You probably pretty much have the water to yourself this time of year too, don't you?
That's another nice thing. Yes, you can be out there on a peaceful fall day, and you can go around the lake, and you won't. Not that boats don't really bother muskies, but they bother fishermen more than they bother the muskies. So that's why it's nice to have the lake to yourself, just because of the tranquility and out in God's creation, you can have yourself a good time.
Well, I know that you love muskies, but I also know, Don, that in your career as a fisheries technician for the DNR, you had the opportunity to work with all kinds of fish over the years. What is it about muskies? Why do these muskies just drive you crazy so much?
Well, it could be because of their size. It could be because of their nature. Now, it's easy to say that a muskie is just a bigger northern pike, but the two do have distinct characteristics. Pike like it colder water. Muskies you can fish muskies actively in warmer water than you can pike. Muskies have a tendency to jump more often than pike, and muskies do a thing which we call they follow. They'll follow the lure right to the boat. Like I said previously, boats don't bother muskies. So they'll follow your lure right into the boat. Where a pike sees a boat, he turns and runs. So they're different, and everything about muskies, I don't know why. Also because, well, they're a little rare, and maybe that makes it even more of a challenge. So they're a large, not as common fish, and maybe that's one of the reasons I love them so much.
When I think about muskie fishing in Michigan, I think about muskie fishing on Lake St. Clair, and then I think about every place else, because it's like two different types of fishing, right?
Well, it can be, because there's 800 square miles of Lake St. Clair, so that's primarily a trolling fishery. But there are times you can get out there and cast, and we found a spot, in fact, last fall off of Lake St. Clair that was very good for 44-inch plus fish, and just casting from shore. And we did, while we were there for a couple hours, we saw 3 or 4 fish landed. So if you do your research, you can have a good time with muskies. And still, trolling is still good. It's a great way to catch fish. I prefer to cast. It's a little bit more exciting, I think. But either way, if you get a picture taken with a muskie, you've done pretty good.
Casting from shore, that really got my attention.
Right. And we discovered it last year, and the muskies, it was a few weeks before ice up, and they were coming in, and we were casting from shore, and we were having I didn't land a fish, but I saw fish landed, and they were all beautiful, big muskies, big, wow, heavy muskies. Wow. They were, like I say, I don't think we saw one under 44 inches. I think they were right around 48 inches. They're all big, beautiful fish.
Now, I'm sorry, Don. I was a little surprised to hear about you down on Lake St. Clair, but I'm thinking, with the disappearance of Sanford and Wixom and the Secord Lakes, which were tremendous inland muskie fisheries, have you muskie people had to look elsewhere, or are there still plenty of fish in mid and northern Michigan as well?
Well, we had to look a little elsewhere because we lost those lakes. And hopefully, we're hoping in a couple of years we get those impoundments back. There's still good muskie fishing in northern Michigan. You can go to Black, Mullet, Burt Lakes, Skagamog Lake, which is off of Torch Lake. All are good muskie fisheries. So there's other opportunities out there for muskies. You just, like I say, sometimes with muskies, you got to do a little research and get out and look in fishing reports, look in the DNR fishing reports, and like I say, with a little research, you can get into some.
Hang tight, Don. We got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Don Barnard, who is just a hardcore muskie fishing guy. And he spent a lot of years working with those fish in the DNR as a fisheries technician. These days, he's retired and he's chasing them for fun. And he says the fall is the best time of year to hook into a fish or a trophy fish for sure. So we'll take a break. Just a reminder, this is the Outdoor Magazine show. My name is Mike Avery, the website MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out with questions, comments. By the way, the Ask Avery segment, which is coming up here at the end of the hour, if you have a question for that, the best way to get me those questions is to send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Lots more coming up with Don Barnard after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM, 94.9 FM. And you can hear us, let's see, can we go north of the bridge? Yes. Let's go to Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, your fall waterfowl hunting jumping-off spot, your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters, and your place to get your boat winterized and stored if you need it as well. Plus, when the ice season comes up, if you are an ice angler, Linwood Beach Marina is a great jumping-off spot from there. Great people, great facilities, great location. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Years ago, I was trolling for walleye in the skinny water just south of Linwood Beach Marina, and I caught a muskie. Only muskie I've ever caught on Saginaw Bay. I didn't even take a picture of it. I should have, but I didn't. In fact, did I even have a cell phone at that point? I don't remember. Well, speaking of muskies, Don Barnard is my guy when I talk about fall muskies. Don is a hardcore muskie angler. He says fall is the best time of year to catch a trophy fish. Don, what is, and I know this is going to vary from person to person, but what is a trophy muskie in your mind? What length fish is that?
Well, I'm looking forward to the day when I catch a 50-incher. I've caught lots of fish over 40 inches, up to 45 inches. To most people, if they are fishing for walleyes in the 15 to 20-inch range or up to 25-inch range, or bass up to 20 inches, you catch a 40-inch fish, and that's a trophy.
Sure.
Of any type. Myself, personally, I'm looking forward to the day I catch 50 inches is around 30 pounds, and I think that'll make a fine photo, and I can release it and fish for more muskies in the same day, I hope. So that's my goal, catch a 50-incher, and I think that's an important number for most muskie anglers.
Have you had a 50-inch follow?
I've had fish close to 50 inches, but I don't remember seeing a fish of that size. Of course, I was in Northwest Ontario, and there were some big fish following our lures there. So, but, you know, as all things, what happens when you put a tape measure to it, it might shrink. So there's and you know this as well as I do. There's out in the field, there's ground shrinkage, and there's boat shrinkage. You know, that the fish looks that much larger. Now, do I have a little bit more experience from my career to judge fish? I would say
yes,
so.
You do, yes. I don't think you're going to get tape measure shrinkage with you, Don Barnard, because you've seen so many big fish and you've handled them and you've got the experience. You are one guy, if you tell me, look, that's a 50-inch fish, I'm going to believe it, and I'm not going to second guess you at all.
Well, we have measured quite a few, and you get to, and when you're measuring them for the job, it's beautiful to see a big fish, but it's part of the job. You're a little bit, and you're appreciative of the size of the fish, and the goal is to release it safely. So yeah, you can look at these fish a little bit or more objectively when you're handling them.
Why is a follow such a big deal for a muskie angler?
Oh, it's very important. It's half the battle. It's location, because it's also very easy to come back, let's say in 15, 20 minutes or a wind shift, and catch that fish. When Sanford was a lake, the first muskie I caught in Sanford Lake, we had 2 previous follows from that same fish. And we'd go back at about 10 or 15 minutes, and finally on the third attempt, it grabbed the lure. So a follow is important. It's also possible to catch a fish on a follow if you keep your head about you. Instead of saying, look, there's a big fish, you keep your head about you, and you keep the lure in the water and you keep it moving. Sometimes you can turn that follower into a biter.
What's that like? I mean, you got 6 feet of line out and you get a 40-inch fish grab your bait at the side of the boat. That's got to be kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun. You've got a fish that grabbed their bait, and now you better hang on. So you've already got heavy tackle, and you've got heavy line because of the bait you're using, and now you have a 40-some, 50-some inch fish 2 feet from the end of your pole at the most. And it's exciting. And that's part of the reason I like to cast over trolling.
Trolling is good for what? Covering water, exploring?
Covering water, covering depths of water that you may or may not be able to cover casting. And, but mostly putting your lure in front of, hopefully, a few fish. So, yeah, trolling is an important tool in muskie angling, and I'm not here to knock it down because it is an important tool. And once again, the goal is have your picture taken with a muskie. So no matter how you can do that legally, trolling or casting, you can go home that day and say, look what I caught. When
you get your 50-incher, I know you're not going to keep it. I know you're going to get a picture of it. Would you get a replica mount of that fish? Would you get that done?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to my financial coordinator, which is my wife.
Would you want to? Wouldn't that be a cool thing to do, though? Look here's a replica of the fish I caught. I've got a picture to prove it, yet that fish is still swimming around. That would seem like a pretty cool thing to do.
Well, yeah, I think it would be beautiful. And so just like I have deer and antelope, it's more than a picture because there's the creature. Same with the replica would be beautiful. Do I have enough wall space? I don't know, but I would probably find some. And, it would be wonderful. And it's a great, every time you look at it, you go, well, that was awesome when you caught that fish. And, where would we be without our outdoor memories?
Yeah. So the fishing now, Don, will get nothing but better for fall trophy muskies as the water temp drops. Is that the gist of our conversation?
Yeah, pretty much. You can, like I say, once we get below 55 degrees, and if you can stand it, my best muskie came the day before Sanford Lake froze over. So that was a 45-incher, and that was, I obviously had the lake to myself, but, and I had seen no other fish that day, but the fish came in as the snow was falling. So, yeah, from here on out, you can have good muskie fishing. Just get out there and cast and cast and cast and cast, and you'll catch a fish.
In our northern lakes here, is there a muskie stocking program, or is Michigan's muskie program pretty much natural reproduction?
Well, we have a stocking program. Unfortunately, their priorities have shifted. We're not getting the product that we used to. When we shifted from fishing for northern muskies and we went to Great Lake muskies, that moved our harvest time a month back, as opposed to when we were harvesting northern muskies, it was in April. Now we're harvesting Great Lakes muskies in May. So the product that we stock in the fall is smaller. And then, unfortunately, someone decided to reduce our stocking rates, mostly so they could say, look at how many lakes we stocked. Unfortunately, because they went to a 4 fish per acre stocking rate to 1.5 fish per acre, we're not seeing the survival that we did in previous years. It's very disappointing. I would like to see some sort of reevaluation of that program, because right now our muskie stocking program, while it's still there, there's no follow-up to see on the survival of the fish that we're stocking. And we need to do that. And instead of spreading the product thinly over many, many lakes, we need to concentrate on a few lakes and build those populations up so we can have fishable populations of muskies. Right now, that is depreciated over the years, and it's unfortunate to report it, but that's essentially what's happened.
I guess if you're trying to please the masses of anglers, if you keep the walleye people happy and you keep the salmon people happy, you've kept the bulk of your anglers happy. You muskie guys are kind of a small, at least outside of Lake St. Clair, you're kind of a small group off to the side, aren't you?
Well, that's true for the most part. But I remember back when, like I say, I'm going to go back to when Sanford Lake there was lake and there was muskies, and there were on the same day there was a bass tournament and there was a muskie tournament. I counted boats for both, and the muskie anglers had come to that tournament from out of state. There were more muskie anglers that day.
Really?
So there's a viable muskie fisherman population out there that unfortunately right now the department is not taking advantage of. And these guys are willing to travel, as I've already shown you. I'm willing to travel down to Lake St. Clair. I went to Quamanon River this summer. I'm willing to travel some miles to fish muskies, and so are other muskie anglers. We don't necessarily have to have them in our backyard. We're willing to travel to have a good day.
You mentioned UP muskies. When I think of muskie fishing in Michigan, I think of, before I knew about Sanford and Wixom and such, as heading to the UP, right? I mean, that's these remote lakes that don't get fished. Still a good option?
Oh, yeah. There's both lakes in the eastern Upper Peninsula. Like I say, I mentioned the Quamanon River system, which is very good. And the western UP and Iron County, Gogebic counties have very good populations of muskies. And some of those lakes are being stocked with northern muskies from Wisconsin. We're trading them Great Lakes muskies for northern muskies. So on the lakes that are semi-dependent on stocking, in the western Upper Peninsula, we have a muskie angler by the name of Mark Milchrist in the DNR, and he's making sure that they get good populations of stocked fish, and he's a muskie angler.
He's keeping an eye on things for you.
He is doing a good job keeping an eye on muskie fishing and looking for the muskie anglers of Michigan out over there.
All right. Don, listen, I appreciate that. Good luck on the rest of your trip. Have a safe trip home, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks again, Mike.
Always a pleasure. Don Barnard, a former DNR employee. So he's got that. I mean, he's got all perspectives. He's handled a lot of fish. He's seen a lot of fish, but he's a hardcore angler as well. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC checks in, and we'll follow it up with this week's Ask Avery question right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM, WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, AR style, highly accurate, tough and dependable rifles that could change the way you look at hunting with an AR. They're made in Lansing, just down the road from the governor's office, which makes me smile every time I think about that. Check them out online at BrentonUSA.com. That's BrentonUSA.com. If you use the promo code Avery, you can get $100 off on a Brenton rifle at the website, BrentonUSA.com. I have a 350 Legend from Brenton that I absolutely love, BrentonUSA.com. Want to turn our attention now, speaking of Lansing, to our friends in Lansing at MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Nick Green is their Chief Information Officer. I like to check in with Nick every couple of weeks to see how things are going. He's very gracious and generous with his time, and he's with us once again. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm getting ready to head up north for bird camp. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Nice. Listen, I'm not looking for exactly where you're going, but what part of the state you headed to?
Northwest Michigan, Northwest Lower Peninsula.
Is this something you guys have done for years, or tell me more about the history of this?
It is. This is probably my 6th annual, and it's kind of started when I got dogs, and we chased grouse and woodcock and ducks, and got about, 5 to 10 guys come up, and we have wall tents, campers, a good time, and we chase birds for a few days, and kind of recharge and regenerate for the season ahead.
Oh, that does sound like a lot of fun. You say 6 years ago when you got dogs. What do you have, Nick?
I have a German Shorthair, a small Munsterlander, and a Lab.
What's the middle one? Tell me the name of the middle one again.
Small Munsterlander. His name is Calvin. He's very similar to a Shorthair, but he looks like a Spaniel. They're just a German versatile dog. Pretty old breed.
I wasn't aware of that one. So you've got it covered. You got all your bases covered.
Got all my bases covered. Got upland birds and ducks and waterfowl. So we're going to have a good time, and I'm excited to kind of be up in my old stomping ground.
Wonderful. I'm excited for you as well. So listen, before you can get off and do some fun stuff, let's talk about some work. Anything going on at Lansing right now, or is this kind of a slow time for you guys?
Still kind of slow. We're kind of in a holding pattern here until the elections happen. Folks are back in district right now trying to kind of focus on what's going to be their future. So when they come back, when we have a new legislature, and we'll have a few months of a lame duck. We don't expect anything crazy right now. We'll keep our eye on that. And then Michigan Out of Doors was actually able to hold our youth pheasant hunt over the weekend. We had 10, 11 kids come out. We put out 50 birds up at Tails of Wagon in Marion, and they were able to go out. Lots of smiles. We give them let them shoot clays, and then we give them a bird cleaning demonstration afterwards. And these are all kids who we've tried to have at camp or had an interaction with them before, and this is kind of that next step in hunter recruitment, retention, reactivation. Getting them with a gun in their hand, shooting their first bird, animal, whatever it might be, and then trying to get them to go out and do it on their own with their parents. So it was a really exciting weekend, and we appreciate everything that the Abrams Foundation does to support that.
What is the Abrams Foundation?
The Abrams Foundation does a lot of philanthropic work with like the PATH Foundation with Michigan Operation Freedom, a lot of hunting kind of disabilities, folks that need to hunt, but they're also gracious and include MUCC in their giving, and they support our youth camp, Michigan Outdoors Youth Camp, every year, and this pheasant hunt now we've been doing for 3 years as well.
Oh, that's nice. You know what else I like about this pheasant camp is you actually show the kids how to clean the birds too. This brings everything full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we had one girl who was actually plucking her birds. They were taking the hearts. They were going to eat those. Some were going to pickle them. They wanted the heads so they could make a European mount. So, it was really cool to see them kind of dig in and what their interests were and what they wanted to take away from it.
Nick, you folks at MUCC, I mean, I hear about all these different things. You've got so much going on. You don't have a big staff to make it happen. I give you a lot of credit for what you were able to accomplish. For folks,
Thanks, Mike.
MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, I'm sure everybody knows who you are by now, but if somebody is listening and say, I don't understand what this organization is, who are you guys? What do you do? What are you all about?
We are a conservation nonprofit. We were founded in 1937, and we really primarily are known for our advocacy efforts, but we also have a youth camp that's been running since 1947. We print Michigan Outdoors magazine. We've owned the TV show at times. So really just a conservation organization that has worked on policy, education, habitat. We have an on-the-ground program, anything to get folks kind of into the conservation space in whatever way they may want to engage. You can look us up at mucc.org.
Grassroots organization, so membership is important. The more people that you have behind you or guiding you, the more clout you carry in Lansing.
Absolutely. The grassroots part is kind of critical to who we are. So our members decide our policy and our resolutions, and those are staff marching orders. Staff don't decide those. Those are all in the membership's hands.
Nick, I can tell you're eager to put that phone down and get headed north, so I'm going to let you go. I'll wish you a good trip, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
All right, Nick Green of MUCC, their Chief Information Officer, the website mucc.org, mucc.org. By the way, if you want to join MUCC and sign up to become a member for the first time, you can save 25%. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, M-I-K-E. Go to the website mucc.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, and you can save 25%. I'm an MUCC member, right? I think they're doing a great job, and I really appreciate working with those folks. We'll take a break. We're going to wrap up this second hour as we do each week with the Ask Avery segment. Coming up in hour number 3, we're going to talk with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. Randy is a hardcore hunter in general, but a predator hunter in particular, and I'm going to ask him to tell the story about his 10-year-old grandson shooting a big northern Michigan bear. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up hour number 2 with this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Now, just a reminder, the way this segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the programming, the content of each week's show. You can send me a question that you want me to answer directly, or I can pass it along to somebody else, maybe at MUCC or DNR or someplace that maybe you can't get access to that I can. The best way to get these questions to me, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's exactly what Jason Chartier, or Chartier, I think it's Chartier. Sorry, Jason. Jason sent me an email. He said, "Hey, Mike, I saw a picture of a white bear from the UP a few weeks ago, and it got me thinking, is an albino bear a legal target? What about deer? Can you legally shoot an albino deer?" Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. That picture got a lot of attention. That was it was a trail camera picture on a bait. I saw it as well, and it was unclear to me whether that was a true albino bear or whether it was a piebald or just a very, very light blonde-colored bear. But the question is still a good question, a valid question. Yes. In Michigan, you can shoot an albino animal, whether it's a bear or a deer or a squirrel or whatever. I think it was in 2008, if I remember right, the DNR or legislature, the powers that be, lifted the ban against shooting an albino animal. Further, you can also shoot a piebald animal. Now, a piebald is an animal that has some white and some color on it. You see a fair number of piebald whitetails. They're not that rare. I've seen a couple of them myself. And they would be a legal target. Now, some people would say, for example, the Native Americans said, no, that white bear is what we call a spirit bear. We would ask you not to shoot it. But legally, there's no reason not to. Also, talking about that white bear in the UP, it was later reported by the regular media that that bear was later eaten by wolves. I've been trying to find out if that's the case, and the story is the animal was showing up on trail camera, but then there weren't any more trail camera pictures of it, and they knew there were wolves in the area, so you could say, well, yeah, it got eaten by wolves. But I don't think there's any definitive proof of that. But it sure makes a good story, doesn't it? Sure makes a good story. A few years ago, I posted a picture on my Facebook page of a young hunter with what was obviously an albino whitetail, and it was a big whitetail. It had a big rack. I mean, you could see the pink eyes and everything. It was a full-blown albino. And that kid got a lot of grief. Oh, you can't shoot that. Well, you can. So the answer to Jason's question is albino and piebald animals are legal targets here in Michigan. But not everybody agrees with shooting them. What do I say about morality and ethics? That's an individual decision. If a decent-sized piebald buck walked in front of me, would I shoot it? Absolutely, I would. Albino, I would think twice about it just because I would know that I was going to get a significant amount of grief over it. But as far as being legal, absolutely, it is indeed a legal target. As of, again, I think about 2008. Thank you, Jason Chartier, for sending me that question. He sent it to me via email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. If you have a question for the Ask Avery segment, I would encourage you to don't hesitate, send it off to me. You can try getting it to me on one of the social media messaging platforms, but to be honest with you, some of those messages get lost. I don't see them. It is my intent to answer every email in a timely manner. Now, timely to me and timely to you might be two different things. If you send me an email at noon and you don't hear back from me by 1, well, that's pushing it, right? I mean, I do have things I need to get done. However, I will say this. If you send me an email and I don't respond in a few days, feel free to send me a second email. And this is not just for the Ask Avery question, but for anything. Feel free to send a follow-up email because I don't intentionally ignore emails. In the subject matter of this second email, put, "Hey, stupid," and that'll get my attention because then I realize, oh, okay, I missed an email. I will ask you not to put "Hey, stupid" in the subject line of your first email, as I have had some people do, because that tends to set the conversation off on the wrong foot. Thank you, Jason Chartier, for sending me that question. And, of course, thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We will take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third and final hour this week, we'll be talking with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan talking about the outdoors, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, and isn't it a wonderful time of year? Oh, the month of Rocktober. You've got to love this time of year. So many different outdoor recreational opportunities, and I hope you're getting a chance to get out and enjoy them. Randy Budde is a guy that I've met through the show here. I have so much respect for. This guy is like a hardcore predator hunter, just a hardcore hunter in general. And I always find our conversations interesting and informative, and Randy has agreed to spend a few minutes with us this hour on the Outdoor Magazine show, and he's with us on the phone line. Randy, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. Listen, I saw a picture the other day of, I think if I remember right, it was your grandson sitting behind a big bear. What a great picture, first of all.
Yes, thank you. We were very happy that he got it.
Tell me the story about that hunt, Randy.
Well, my brother and I, we went up and started baiting a couple of weeks ahead for Easton, my grandson, and my son-in-laws and daughter. And the bears were showing up real good in the daylight. Early on, it was warm out and just nice days, and the bears were showing up real good in the daylight. Well, they had the third season, and just before they got up there, the weather turned cold and rainy and really windy, and the bears started hitting after dark and not hitting that good. Well, the first day my son-in-law killed a bear, 150-pound boar, and then the next 3 days they weren't seeing nothing. And then on the fourth day of their hunt, the weather straightened up, the wind died down, and they ended up, anyway, they killed 3 bear that night. My grandson was sitting with his dad, and they were back 71 yards from the bait, and the bear come in at the last little bit of shooting light, and my grandson shot him with a AR-15 chambered in 6.5 Grendel.
Big bear too, right?
Pardon?
Big bear too.
Yeah, it weighed 320 pounds.
Wow.
A sow. It ran about 20 yards and died behind the bait.
Nice. And I find it interesting, too, because, Randy, I ran into the same situation on my hunt. I had the third season. The bears were coming into the bait every day during daylight, like clockwork. We had that cold weather come in, and it just shut things right down.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the cold weather or all that wind, but yeah, it shut them right down. It was really looking good up until just a few days before the kids got there.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you ended up having a good bear season after all, though, anyway.
Yes, it does. Like I said, on that night there, that they killed 3 bear that night, so they ended up tagging out. So, yeah, it turned out good.
Good deal. So what else have you been doing, Randy?
Well, I did a little bit of coyote hunting up north, up in the UP, but I don't do too much up there. But called in wolves 2 different times. One night I called in just a single wolf, and then another night I called in 6 wolves. I sent you a video of it.
This year, Randy?
Yeah, yep. I did. Oh. I just sent it yesterday, so you might not have noticed it yet.
Did it come? Did you send it to me by email or what? I'm going to look for that.
I sent it Facebook Messenger.
Okay, yeah, I'll look for that. Well, listen, I didn't even know that happened, so we got to talk about this now. Now, you didn't go up there with the intent of calling in wolves, I suspect.
No, I was just up there bear baiting for the kids, but. I like to get out and do a little bit of coyote hunting too, and that's been my experience the last few years, that you call in more wolves than coyotes. And I called it this one field. It was actually a state-owned field, and let me back up. When I got out of the truck, I scanned the field with my thermal, and there was 7 or 8 wolves in the northwest corner of the field, and anyway, they finally took off, and the majority of them went to the north in the pines. So I walked out in the field. It's a fairly good-sized field, and I got out in the middle of the field, and I let out a howl, and there was some wolves howled back at me in the southwest corner of the field, so the opposite end of the field, and it was just a matter of a minute or two, and they came out, and I thought, well, I'll see how close I can get them to come in, and I went into just a little, it's kind of like a mouse squeaking sound, and I brought 2 of them into 54 yards, and then they finally took off, and I let them go.
But so there was probably, I'm going to say, well over 10 wolves right there, because I called 6 of them out, and I know that the first 7 or 8 I seen that it wasn't all them, because the majority of them went to the north. So, but yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because you had a group of them to the north of you, and then you called in this group to the south. That's 2 different groups of wolves right there.
Yep. Yes. Definitely. But I was up in the UP for about 3.5 weeks, and I seen right around 25 wolves.
Wow. What part of the UP, Randy?
The southwestern UP.
So when you walked out there in that field that night and you scanned them with your thermals, when you saw those critters, is it obvious right away they're wolves and not coyotes?
No, it's not. But there's just a little bit of differences in the thermal that you can tell them apart. When they're out at a distance, you can't really see the size difference in that thermal. So you can't really go by the size then. Like when you'll see my video there, when I had them up there at 54 yards, then you can see they're definitely a big animal. But it seems like in the thermal, it's looking like to me that the wolves, their ears are more rounded on the top. Just in the thermal, it looks like they're more rounded on the top than a coyote. I did call in a couple of coyotes and I killed one, and I hit the other one as it ran away in the UP. But them are the only coyotes I seen, was just them 2.
Do they come in like coyotes and wolves? When they come into a call, do they come in the same way? Do they act differently?
Yeah, they do. They do come in pretty much the same. Now, like the 6 that I called in there that night, they howled before they come, and when they howl, they're definitely different than a coyote.
Yeah. You know right away what you're dealing with then, don't you?
Yeah, but then, like I called in a single wolf earlier, and it just come running towards me, and I ended up spooking it and then turned and run back. But yeah, they pretty much come in the same. But when you see them running, they do run a little bit different.
People might say, "Well, Randy, I mean, you're intentionally surrounding yourself with wolves. Doesn't that make you nervous?"
I'm not. No, not really. I knew when I seen the wolves out in the field when I got there, I knew my chances of getting a coyote were really slim. But I thought, well, I'm going to go out there and call. I'm here. I'm going to do it. And I went out there and called, and then they howled at me, and I thought, well, I'll see if I can't get them to come in close, get a good video of them.
So when you've got, in your experience, what you've seen, when you've got wolves, you're not going to have coyotes?
Yeah, I don't think the wolves really, the coyotes really want to be in that same area with them wolves. The coyotes up there, they seem to be a lot harder to call in than down around here, and I think it's because of them wolves. I think that they're a little bit afraid to come into any predators, like a rabbit or something like that, just because of knowing what could be there also to get it.
Makes sense, sure. Hang tight, Randy. We got to take a break here. By the way, I'm looking at my Facebook Messenger right now, and I don't see that. So when you get a chance, can you try resending it, or send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com? I'd love to see that video, Randy.
Okay. Will a text work all right? Or?
Yeah, text will work. Yeah, well, I think it will. Yeah, give it a try. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks, Randy. We'll take a break here. We're going to finish or continue our conversation with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook as Savage Dog Outdoors. They do a lot of predator hunting. They shoot some wonderful nighttime video. And when I get that video from Randy, when I see it, I will post it on my Facebook page so you can see it as well. We'll take a break. More with Randy Budde on predator hunting here in the great state of Michigan, right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. And you can hear us in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG, as it's called, is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% signing up to become an MUCC member for the first time, use the promo code Mike, all caps, and you can save that 25%. We're talking right now with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find these guys on Facebook as Savage Dog Outdoors. They are hardcore predator hunters. And Randy, for you guys, when I say predator hunter, does this mean pretty much coyotes only, or all predators?
Yeah, we hunt fox in winter and season, and then bobcats in the daytime in the season. But of course, it's mainly coyotes because that's year round.
And I used to think that coyote hunting was just a wintertime sports, but you guys have shown me it's a year round deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Certain fall is probably a little bit better, but summertime can be really good too. This year, summertime wasn't that good for me, but it looks like since I've been back from bear baiting, it looks like it's starting to pick up. Here I killed 6 of them last week, so it's starting to pick up a little bit better.
Randy, I know coyote hunters who don't kill 6 of them in a year.
Yeah, they can be hard to get.
So what is, I realize it's not one secret or one tip or one trick, but how are you consistently successful time after time?
Well, I don't know. I'm persistent, I guess. And then over the years, I've learned what nights are not really productive and what ones that I think are, and then just learning what sounds seem to work better for you. It's just, I don't know, I guess just from doing it.
When you say what nights aren't productive, you mean weather-wise?
Right, yeah. I don't like high winds. You might kill some coyotes out there in the high winds, but it doesn't work that good for me. And then it seems like if the barometer's really low, it isn't all that good, or if it's really high, it's not that good. So I kind of look at that, and then of course if it's raining, I don't go. Of course the hunting might be good, but I don't like getting wet.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah. What about moon phase?
Yeah, I don't like the really bright moon. I feel that they can see me too easy, so I usually won't go then either. So I've never had good luck in a full moon. I know some people claim it's good, but I personally have not had good luck with the full moon.
I'm not a real fan of hunting anything on the full moon. I just haven't had a lot of luck myself.
No, it's so bright out there that I think they can see you.
Yeah. You guys are very sophisticated in your setup, in your gear, in your rig. Tell me more about that. You're using gone are the days of using a bright white light to light them up with, right?
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that does that anymore. With the thermal technology coming out, and they've made it affordable for most people. It's still not cheap by no means, but after you use the thermal and you see how it is, it'd be pretty hard to go out there with anything but. I use a thermal scanner, and I can see coyotes out there hundreds and hundreds of yards away. And my rifle scope is actually a little bit better than my scanner. So, of course, we still got to get them. Yeah, I like to have them within a couple hundred yards. Sometimes I do shoot them at 300 and 400 yards, but I mean, the thermals nowadays are so good that you can spot that animal way out there and make the hit on him.
It's got to be kind of cool to be out there in the middle of the night, and with your naked eye, you can't see anything, but you light that field up with a thermal. You're going to see everything that's out there, every skunk and possum and deer and everything else, right?
Yeah, it's just when you first start using them thermals, it's just amazing what you can see out there. I mean, you see mice out there. You'll see a mouse crawling around. If it's short grass, you'll see a mouse out there 7,500 yards away. I mean, any animal that's out there that's putting out a little bit of heat, he sticks right out. It's just amazing how well you can see.
Maybe this is a little bit off topic, but couldn't you use those thermal scopes and scanners to recover deer too?
Yes, I use it all the time. If you're looking for a deer, they work great for recovering a deer.
Yeah.
If that deer is under a little bit of brush or anything like that, and there's just one little patch of him showing through, you can spot him, and he'll throw out heat for. It's not uncommon for me to find them the next day, and they're still throwing out a little bit of heat.
Wow. What caliber are you hunting them with, Randy?
Right now, the gun I use most of the time it's a 6.8 SPC neck down to 6 millimeter. So it's a Wildcat cartridge, but it's real ballistically similar to the new 6 millimeter arc.
Are you loading your own rounds then?
Oh yeah. I've been reloading for 50 years.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Is that part of the reason why you can make these shots at 400 yards, because you're shooting rounds that you've loaded?
No, they're like I said, ballistically it's about the same as a 6 millimeter arc. So it's not a super fast cartridge, but it's just a nice cartridge for in an AR-15. Actually, some of my longest shots I made after dark has been with a 6.5 Grendel in an AR-15.
And how long was that shot?
I've shot them like at 4:15.
That's a heck of a shot, Randy.
Yeah, it is. But we use a tripod out there, so we got the gun on a tripod, which it's not like shooting off a bench, but it's a heck of a lot better than shooting off a tree limb or offhand.
Now, I know for a while it was real hard to get reloading supplies. How was that situation?
It hasn't improved much. It's still really hard, and the prices are unreal. Like primer prices, back before this all took place, you could buy 1,000 primers for around $40 1,000. Now they're $110.
Wow.
So it's not good yet.
Well, it seems like that's the case with a lot of things these days, huh?
You got that right. Yep. things are not good when it comes time to buy something.
Randy, how would you? What advice would you give to somebody getting started? I mean, they're not going to go out and spend the thousands of dollars that you guys have into your thermals and such. I mean, how could you get started in this for a reasonable price and have at least a reasonable expectation of eventually taking down a coyote?
Well, probably the cheapest route and probably the best way to learn is to go buy you. You don't got to spend a lot of money on a call. But electronic call's nice. You can get by with hand calls, but if you buy electronic call, it's going to sound good right from the start, and there ain't a long learning process on how to operate a hand call. So probably go buy a lower price call like Icotech has. They have some lower end calls that for a couple $100 you can actually get a pretty nice call, like the Icotech GC 500 and is a really nice call that you'll probably never outgrow it, and they're like $200. So that's a good place to start right there, and then just hunt them in the mornings or in the evening. Like make 1 or 2 sets shortly after daylight or 1 or 2 just before dark. You can just use your regular deer rifle. In the whole state of Michigan, there's no, as long as it's not during deer season, there's no caliber limits in the daytime over the whole state. So just use your favorite deer rifle and go out there and try to call them in, you know. Probably like some type of rabbit distress is kind of hard to go wrong with it. It's not the best sound year round, but it's hard to go wrong with using rabbit distress. And just go out there and try to hide really good, because they do have really good eyes, and you want to watch downwind of the call, because a lot of times, especially if there's any wind, they're going to try to circle around downwind of that sound. And just go out there and do it, and don't be discouraged because you've went 8-10 times and never haven't called nothing in. If you're calling crows and hawks or owls in, you're doing it right, and just keep trying.
Any kind of a decoy? I know some people put a little motorized or mechanized decoy out in front of them to get some movement. Does that help at all?
You know, it can help, but I've heard people that kind of feel that it hurt them too. You know, definitely not necessary, but probably not a bad idea either. You know, a lot of the lower end Icotech calls, like the GC 320, which is a lower price call, they come with a decoy right on them.
That's what I
thought.
And then
you can operate the decoy with the remote control also. You know, it might help and it might not. You know, it depends on that day. Some people just put a little thing up there with a stick with a piece of fish line on it and a feather too for a decoy.
Depends on what they want on that day.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's just like fishing. It's just it depends on what they're biting on. You know, if somebody wants to get into nighttime hunting, you can go out there and scan with a red light, and then shoot with a light on your gun too. It works.
All right, Randy, listen.
It's not the best.
I got to cut you off. I appreciate your stories. I will look forward to that video as well. Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. You can find him on Facebook, Savage Dog Outdoors. He's one of the best out there, and always enjoy our conversations. We'll take a break. More coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. You can hear the show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WTCM in Traverse City and WMLQ in Manistee, 97.7. I'm just going through my list here. And WSGW in Saginaw, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. Actually, I'm in Pat Johnston's studio, okay? Be honest with you. He's in here the rest of the week. He lets me share it for 3 hours a week. Pat, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Pat doing a wonderful job, as always. By the way, this segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me and now my neighbors as well. What did Reader do for us? Almost every week they're over there doing something. This week they were putting fertilizer on, probably the last fertilizer of the season. And pretty soon, I expect they'll be coming around to do a fall cleanup. And then after that, although I don't have them do my snow removal, if you're looking for snow removal, they can do that as well. The way I look at this is, you could do a lot of these jobs yourself, right? You could do your snow removal. You could do your fall cleanup. You could do your summertime mowing. But every hour that the Reader guys do it is one more hour you can spend hunting or fishing. So that's the way I look at it. Let those guys do it so we can have more fun. Plus, they just do an absolutely great job. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Pat and I were just looking at the video that Randy Budde was talking about of bringing those wolves in. It is pretty cool. I will post that on my Facebook page so you can see it. But, it takes a special type of guy, a very, well, I mean, right? He's intentionally surrounding himself with wolves. Now, I get it. He's got a gun in his hand, but he can't shoot those wolves anyway. But I think that is, I think it's pretty cool. Wolves in the UP. That's a topic in itself, isn't it? I hope that sometime in the fairly near future, we can have the wolf hunt that we should have. Now, we did have one, right? We had one very limited wolf hunt in the UP, and then the antis came in and they shut it down, and that's what we're dealing with right now. It's this isn't. People say, "Oh, the DNR should have a wolf hunt." This isn't up to the DNR. The DNR would love to have a wolf hunt. This is out of our hands at this point. It's because the antis just think it's a bad thing to do. When we have this next wolf hunt in the UP, one thing I would like to see is that they would allow the trappers and the houndsmen to be a part of it. We didn't fulfill our quota the first time we had one because the trappers weren't allowed to be involved. If we can get trappers and houndsmen up there, they'll do the job. They'll take the quota. I will just about guarantee it. Whatever number is set on the next hunt, if the right groups are allowed to take part in it, they'll reach our quota. And that's what we need. Now, I have hunted wolves in Ontario, and up there, since they are used to being hunted, if a wolf in Ontario sees you, hears you, smells you, I mean, they're gone. They want nothing to do with you. But you hear these stories about wolves in the UP, they haven't been hunted. They don't have a healthy fear of man that I would like to see them have. But I have no control over that. You have no control over that. And it's one of those things that I guess it's going to happen when it'll happen. Anyway, what's going on this week? I'm doing some time shifting here in the studio. By the time you hear this, I will be coming back home from a bow hunt for whitetails in Ohio. And I've actually used my dart and crossbow. As much as I loved hunting with a recurve, and I think it's the most beautiful, basic, instinctive, clean, pure way to hunt that I've ever hunted. But it takes a certain amount of commitment that I'm not willing to take at this point. If you hunt with traditional gear, I give you a lot of credit because it is an awful lot of work. It's an awful lot of time. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of time. It's more time than I am willing to invest these days. I'll be honest with you. When I put down the recurve a couple of years ago, on my last hunt, when I found myself thinking, if a critter walks in front of me right now, would I actually take the shot? Do I feel comfortable and confident enough to do it? And when I was questioning myself, I said, that's it. If you have to ask yourself, Avery, would you take the shot? Then obviously the answer is no. And you need to do one of two things. You need to either start shooting the bow more, the recurve more, or move on to something else. And I moved on to something else. I picked up my dart and crossbow again because with that I feel relatively comfortable, even confident in making a quick, clean, humane killing shot, which is the goal of all hunters. I don't know if I'll get a shot at a buck down there in Ohio or not. Hunting is, they're free range critters. They're not behind a fence. They're going to do what they're going to do, as I have learned with my bow hunts or my bear hunts from earlier in the year. They're going to do what they're going to do. If you're out there, if you put the time in, if you're in a good spot at the right time, maybe something will happen. Maybe not. I no longer judge my hunts as being successful on whether I make a harvest or not. I'm well past that in my point in life. My hunts are successful just by being out there. The experience is the experience. Getting out there, enjoying the fresh air, that's what I look forward to. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. Appreciate your time. You're busy. There's a lot going on, a lot of different content you could be consuming. The fact that you're hearing my voice, I do certainly appreciate it. Also appreciate the fact that my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, takes time out from his day to join us to talk about cooking up fish and wild game and just his years in the restaurant business, and he's with us once again. David, welcome back. How are you? Nope, losing Pat? Okay. Pat's going to give Dave another call here. I first started working with Dave, I'll bet you it's been 25 years now at least. And we started him on the old Outdoor Magazine television show. And just like the radio show, we used to wrap up the television show with Dave as well. Oh, I think we got him back. Hello, David. How you doing?
Good. Phone just went dead.
Hey, those things happen. Well, listen, I won't waste time with a lot of chit-chat because we just lost some time, and I want to have you give us a recipe. What do you have?
Well, I've got a simmered venison steak, and it's in a sauce. You could use this with bear or just about anything. You know, it would work really good. And you could make this up and then take it to deer camp and heat it up slowly, either in a crock pot or in the oven slow. So you need about 2 pounds of, I would say, leg steaks would really work good with this. Trim them up real nice, cut them across the grain, and, maybe 4 to 6 ounces per steak. And you're going to take that and you're going to grate pepper all over that, put it between saran wrap and pound it down, or plastic wrap. Pound it down so it's nice and thin, breaks up the fibers, and it'll be nice and tender for you. And so you're going to need between 1.5 large onions. I would say slice them. A couple stalks of celery. You want to dice that up fine. 3 or 4 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And that's going to give it some zing to it, a little bit of, so to speak. Large can of stewed tomatoes, chopped and drained. Save the juice for later. You need 1.5 jars of beef gravy. Like I said, you could use the pepper and grate it all over it and pound it down. And about a cup of a nice hearty red wine, 3 or 4 cloves of garlic, and about a teaspoon of Italian spice. After you pound down the meat, you're going to dredge it in flour, with a little bit of olive oil, brown it off real good. Set that on the side for just a minute. Add a little bit more oil to the pan, and you don't want to saute the onions, the garlic, the spices, and everything for just a couple of minutes. Just constantly stir it, not too hot. You just want to get the flavor broke loose. And then you're going to add the Worcestershire and the wine. Stir that real good and bring up all of them little bits of browned meat and stuff like that. Add the tomatoes, the gravy. And if you're going to use water, you could put some beef base in it and then thicken it up with cornstarch if you like. I think it's just a lot easier to use the jarred gravy. Taste it. If this is to your liking, add the meat back into the sauce. And you want to bake this uncovered because that'll help reduce down the water and the liquid, and then it'll kind of concentrate the flavor. And it's going to take at least an hour, hour and a half. And if not, just cook it until it's tender. And I would say serve this with some small boiled potatoes. It would just be wonderful. Or noodles or anything like that. Whatever's easiest if you're taking it to deer camp.
It sounds outstanding, David. Cooking wild game in general, what's the biggest mistake you see people make?
Most people, if they're going to make a steak or medallions or something, they overcook it. It's just ridiculous what they do, how some people cook it down to leather.
Well, should you approach cooking wild game any differently than you would domestic animals?
Yeah, because, the wild game, 99% of it doesn't have the fat that domestic raised. It's not bred especially just to be tender and juicy. Duck and goose, they have really no internal fat. There's no marbling in that at all. It's just external around the meat. And so you want to do that nice and rare, too, if you're going to do it on the barbecue or pan-sear it. Just use a little common sense and try not to overcook it and make people kind of a little turned off to it because it does have a different flavor and a different texture.
Some things you do have to be careful with, right? Like bear. You got to make sure bear is cooked all the way.
Yep, exactly. You could use this for bear, and it would be just great.
I bet it
and if
would.
you had stew meat, this would be an excellent recipe.
Well, David, if we want to try your cooking in person, where do we find you?
Well, Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse, 10th of a mile east of the intersection on Birch Run Road in the Dixie Highway.
All right, David, I'll encourage people to stop by and say hi and they should say, hey, Dave, I heard you on the radio show.
Do that. A lot of people do, man. There's people from all over Michigan that come and tell me, I heard you on the radio. Can we get that recipe?
Wonderful.
Well, if I can possibly do it, I will.
All right. Wild Game Chef Extraordinary Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. A big thank you to him. What a really nice guy he is. And a big thanks to you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. Again, my name is Mike Avery. This is the Outdoor Magazine radio show. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would encourage you, do not hesitate to reach out. Questions, comments, criticisms, questions for the Ask Avery segment. That's the way to do it. Also, don't forget, I do live streams throughout the week. Wednesday night is the big one, Wednesday Night Live. That's at 7 o'clock on my Facebook page, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn as well. Love to have you be a part of that. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.